stealing from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
I'm practicing my Donald Trump dancing here. Can you see that in the studio? Good to have all of you. How is everybody? Pleasured, pleased, and thrilled we are to be here on Thursday, October the 30th, year of our Lord, 2025. Pleasured, pleased, and hope you're happy out there. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. There we go. We all clap together. That was just fun. A lot of you just turned off the lights in your house. Clap on, clap off. All right, good to be here with you on the morning. Top of the morning to you, RJ. I see that right there on the screen. Top of the morning to you. A pleasure. And I must offer an apology. Some of you very angry with us yesterday. We forgot to do the stolen memes section of the show. All on me. I'll take the full responsibility of that. And I just forgot. I just totally forgot. I signed off and said, peace, I'm out of here. And I closed up my things and said, I think we missed something. And then I went, oh, crap, stolen memes. And I looked back on the screen and some of you were yelling in the chat room, memes. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, so you will appreciate it much more today that we will do the stolen memes. I have the trusty globe right here, and we're ready to do the memes on the program, so we'll get those done here in just a bit. All right, good to have all of you here. Lots of news to get to, lots of great guests. Richard C. Lyon's going to be on the program. John Lake going to be on the program. John O'Connor is going to be on the program, so lots of topics to get to, and we've got some news to dive into as well. So if you're new to the program, it's Jimmy Lakey is my name. Lakey Unleashed is the name of the show. And what we do here is we're unleashed from the confines of corporate radio and the tyranny of corporate radio. Even though radio is still trying to live off my name, I don't mean to be braggadocious, but when you're driving down the road from a station and network or whatever that's called, that poop canch about a year ago, and they're still running promos. Sean Hannity now, Jimmy Lakey in the morning. You know, that just shows laziness. It shows a lack of commitment to programming. And that's why they got rid of me. Lack of commitment to programming, because now you just got a bunch of guys that are syndicated yackers yapping their flaps. And anyway, I digress. But it is good to hear my name on the radio still, even though I'm not on the radio. I think it's the only way you can keep an audience is just say Jimmy Lakey in the morning. People tune in every morning and go, well, he's not there. No, they're talking about right here. Every morning right here, about 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Somebody said, why didn't you start at 6 o'clock and just do a whole 4-hour show? The pay's not as good on this program as it was in the old days. Okay, I'm just saying. We're building. We may get there one day, but streaming and podcasting a little bit different than broadcasting. So just letting you know out there. All right, let's dive into some news. What do you say? You ready? Everybody ready for news? Delilah, you ready for news? Waking up. You got your Halloween candy purchased. China's dealing with the Democrats. Breaking news here. New deal announced with China, the framework of the deal. The Democrats won't do a deal with Donald Trump, but everybody around the world seems to want to deal with Donald Trump. And China is going to say they have a deal after meeting with Xi. The president, President Trump, said that U.S. and China have a deal after meeting with Xi Jinping at a summit he described as a 12 out of a scale of 10. He spoke to reporters back on board of Air Force One after a nearly 2-hour meeting at the South Korean Air Base. And on Thursday, Trump said the two nations have reached agreements on trade, fentanyl, rare earth exports, marking a thaw in the tense relationship between Washington and Beijing. He said on a scale of 0 to 10, I quote, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12. We have a deal. Now, every year we will renegotiate the deal, but I think the deal will go on for a long time. Trump says that Xi Jinping agreed to suspend for 1 year China's new export restrictions on rare earth and critical minerals, a move that threatened to disrupt local and global supply materials vital for high-tech manufacturing. In return, Trump said he would withdraw his planned 100% tariff on Chinese imports that was set to take in effect November the 1st. There's no roadblock at all on the rare earth now, Trump says. It's a 1-year deal that I think I would be very routinely extended. The Chinese president also committed to curbing fentanyl exports. He's done that before and lied about it, but it's a major U.S. concern policy. While Trump said Washington would reduce the tariffs on Chinese goods containing fentanyl from 20% to 10% if he would curb the fentanyl exports a little bit, the overall average tariffs on Chinese goods will drop from 57.6% to 47.6%. And Trump says on fentanyl, we agreed that he was going to work very hard to stop the flow. I think you're going to see some real action taken by Xi Jinping. So there you have it. Is that his name, Xi Jinping? Yeah, Xi. Whatever his name is. Yeah, Xi Jinping. Yeah, I said that right? I did. Thank you. All right, so there's our first story of the day. Also, I have a question. Yesterday was a day that a lot of websites were saying that aliens were going to make contact. And I just want to ask anybody, did anybody have any alien encounters yesterday? Love to hear if you did. Feel free to jump into that thing. The conversation about aliens is always fun. And if anybody had any alien encounters, yesterday was a day that they thought aliens were finally going to make contact with Earth, but I'm not aware of it. But if they did, I'd love to hear it because you're out there among the people, so let us know about that. Tomorrow is Halloween. I will be traveling, so I don't think we'll have the porch light on. We could hand out the candy. I've got people that could do that, but Delilah, I could make sure she's handing out the candy at the house. I could send her over to the house of Lakey or Aiden, one of the hipster youth, and hand out the candy. I don't think we're going to do it, though. I don't know. I think we're going to raise the moat up, put out the alligators, and put up the landmines and just tell people to stay the hell away. I think that's tomorrow's plan. I'm not exactly sure. Got to double check. But Halloween, anybody bought your candy yet? We've talked about candy on this program quite a bit, and one of the things we've talked about candy is a lot of folks have said in surveys that they don't want to buy their candy too early because they have already eaten it by the time Halloween. So I want some confessions out there. Some of you people, how many of you have already eaten through the Halloween candy that you originally bought, and you're going to have to go buy some refills? I would love to hear if you're going to have to buy some refills out there. Just curious because tomorrow is Halloween. Another story we've talked about is I don't understand how some people get so festive when it comes to Halloween and the decorations. Of all the things you're going to spend your money at the Home Depot or the Lowe's or the Walgreens, wherever you're buying these Halloween satanic decorations, of all the things you're going to spend money on, I don't understand why you would spend money on evil Halloween decorations. Well, I got a couple of Halloween stories going to lead us into the question of the day. There's an article in the New York Times that asks, have Halloween decorations become too scary? Those who believe things are getting more intense in recent years, and then there's those who think that we're babying kids too much and we just don't have to bubble wrap them anymore and just let them get out there. The New York Times article says that the huge Halloween skeletons have been popping up, named Skelly, along with other lifelike witches and demons, realistic blood and gore. And they talked to some parents who are saying, yeah, pumpkins and witches and ghosts were fine, but we have kind of gone off the deep end with dismembered bodies portrayed in the front yard, moving and speaking and gesturing props. There's people that are complaining about decorations in their neighborhood being too violent and unsettling. So my question for you today, and all of you out there, is, in your opinion, have Halloween decorations gone too far? Is it time that we dial this back or find Jesus or something? I mean, we put bigger Halloween decorations out than we do for celebrating the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So your question of the day, have Halloween decorations gone too far? Producer Chad and I were talking on the pre-show meeting, and I was telling him about a house that I drove by, not in my enclave where I live, but somewhere else in my neighborhood. But I drove by it and I said, my goodness, that's scary. It was an entire front yard, and I think it's been up before, if my memory serves me correct, but it's an entire front yard of life-size mannequins, various short, tall mannequins that are dressed up like evil clowns. I mean, we're talking wall-to-wall, butts to nuts in the yard. It's clowns everywhere. And I think that's creepy. And I don't know why first of all, where do you store all those clowns when it's not Halloween season? And why do you want those in your basement or in your attic? I just think that's creepy. I don't want to know what's going on in the heart of those people. I ain't here to judge it, but I'm thinking it's pretty dirty. I just honestly, I think they're not right in the head to want to have those decorations. Maybe they mean it all good fun, but I have to ask you the question, has Halloween just become too dark and nasty? Have they gone too far? What are you seeing in your neighborhood? And producer Chad says his neighborhood's fancy. They have some of those built-in lights, the jelly lights that you never have to put up Christmas lights. You just punch a button and they're automatically installed on the house. He says there's a lot of people in his neighborhood with giant 10, 12-foot statues of dead people, skeletons, and dead dogs, and just weird skeleton stuff. That's a new thing this year. People are buying the skeleton of dogs and putting those in the yard, that fake skeletons, like 20 feet tall or 20 feet long. And I just questioned, have the Halloween decorations in America and in your neighborhood gone too far? Our Loa IC chats in the Facebook, one of the Facebook pages that she's watching on. We're on several Facebook pages, by the way. Halloween decor has just become evil evoking. I don't like it. And then she says, good morning, by the way. So there's your question of the day. Have Halloween decorations gone too far? Love to get your take on that on this 30th day of October, year of our Lord, 2024 or 5. What year are we? I don't even know what year it is. A couple of more Halloween stories in the news. We'll get to more serious news in a bit, including the Blue City crime wave, Operation Artic Frost. I still want to get to those, but this one ties into our question of the day. Have Halloween decorations become too evil? There has been a survey released about the number one candy in every state. DoorDash and Instacart have both released their reports on Halloween candy buying preferences based on states, and there are some similarities and some differences. Both lists by DoorDash and Instacart list Reese's Peanut Butter Cups as the number one Halloween candy, followed by M&M's. Hershey's Milk Chocolate made the top 10 on both lists. So did Snickers, Kit Kat, Twix, and Sour Patch Kids. On DoorDash, however, they say that the people are ordering Skittles, Nerds, and Airheads. On Instacart, people order the Milky Way or the Haribo Gold Bears, the gummy bears. DoorDash's map shows the number one candy in each state. If you want to go to DoorDash, you can look it up yourself. The West is more likely to pick up Snickers or Red Vines. The Midwest likes the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Twizzlers, and Laffy Taffy. The South, you like the Sweet Smiles brand candy, Trolley, gummy bears, and Skittles. The Northeast is a little everything, including Airheads and the Sour Patch Kids. So we can talk more about that. Have you got your candy already in mix? And the question of the day is, have Halloween decorations gone too far? One more quick story before we get to some more serious topics here. You ready for this? 1 in 6 people think that pets enjoy wearing the Halloween costume. A new poll finds that 1 in 6 Americans are delusional. Absolutely insane, some of you are, at least when it comes to your pets. 16%, around 1 in 6 people, think that pets enjoy dressing up for Halloween. Think of that. 1 in 6 people are absolutely bat crap crazy when it comes to their pets. They think their pets enjoy dressing up for Halloween. And a full 40% say they like it or they don't mind it. So you've got 40 plus 16, 56% of Americans that are on, they either like it or they don't mind it. Have I mentioned that? I don't know. Sometimes I look at certain things that happen in America and say, there's no hope for us. We do not deserve to exist anymore. When 56% of people believe that their pets either like it or don't mind dressing up for Halloween, I'm going to look you right in the eye and tell you, you are bat crap crazy. Your pet does not want to dress up for Halloween. Your pet likes to go on a walk, wants to raise his leg and pee on stuff outside, maybe get some follow around, be with a crowd and family for trick-or-treating, but your pet doesn't want to be in that dumbass costume, and you look like a fool for dressing your pet up in a costume. I'm going to say this. If you dress your pet up for Halloween, please confess. We want to know who you are. Identify and out yourself, because I think you've gone crazy. Especially thinking your pet likes it. Just recognize that you have a stupid and really, I think, unhealthy bond with your pet, and you're dressing them up, pretending that there's some infant that you no longer have, or you used to have, or you want to have. They're like your baby doll, and I think that's a sick and twisted relationship with your pet. I have strong feelings about it. Now, the poll also doesn't distinguish between dogs and cats, but obviously dogs are probably a bit more receptive to being dressed up. But, your kitty cat might look cute as a bumblebee, but the cat's not going to be thrilled about that, I guarantee to you. So let me hear you out there. 1 in 6 people in America think that their pets really enjoy wearing Halloween costumes, and 40% say, well, they may not enjoy it, but they don't mind it. You people are crazy. All right, I want to hear your thoughts on that one as well. But what is your have Halloween decorations gone too far, and has pet etiquette gone too far? Are you dressing up your pets? Anybody out there dress your pet? I did one time for a photo for a Christmas card. Have my dog sit real still, and I put a Santa hat on him, and I told him to sit on the stairs and look at me and smile, and he did. Kind of. Is more teethy. He didn't like it, but I made him wear the Santa hat long enough to take a photo so that we could put it on the family Christmas card that went out, and that was cute. That was good. Now, he didn't enjoy it. I'm not, but I'm the boss. I feed him. He got a treat from it, and he's going to sit his butt there, and he's going to pose in the Christmas hat. He did. But I'm not delusional enough to say, boy, he really liked it. He likes dressing up as Santa. He loves to be Santa Ralphie. No, he doesn't like to be Santa Ralphie. He thinks I'm an idiot for putting a hat on him, and I don't care because I can keep his food from him if I want to. Anyway, all right, glad to have you here out there on the program. All right, what do we have? Richard C. Lyons coming. More serious. Get rid of this crap talk about Halloween, Jimmy. Let's talk news and serious things out there. Please, we shall do that now. I don't know. It feels Friday-ish to me. It's not really Friday. I know tomorrow's Friday, but it feels Friday-ish to me. So I'm a little slap happy this morning for some weird reason. Historian and author Richard C. Lyons is back with us. He was with us a few days ago. Always a pleasure to have him. With the rains and pours, we get more Richard C. Lyons. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm very, very well. I want to dive into this breaking news overnight for us, but we wake up to not just a skeleton framework, but a handshake deal between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in China. And it seems as if we have a deal going on, and it seems like the stock market likes the deal that's going on. Give us your thought. Richard C. Lyons, author of The DNA of Democracy and the Shadows of the Acropolis and the DNA of Democracy. Richard, what are your thoughts?
I think Donald Trump has just shown us a master's class on how to negotiate by going literally traveling in a ring, Jimmy, around China with all the agreements he made with Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, this after he came to an agreement with Australia, and literally ringed China with deals with other countries that don't allow transshipping of Chinese goods through their countries, that give America access to more critical minerals, which is what we sought from China. And then critically, he signed an agreement with South Korea, whereby South Korea is going to invest $350 billion in American shipbuilding. What does that mean? We are at a deficit. Our Navy is at a deficit in ships to China. South Korea is going to invest in our shipbuilding to replenish our Navy, help replenish our Navy. I mean, and then he goes to China. And now the problem with the Chinese, Jimmy, and everybody should know this, when they speak to you, it's a part of their ethics. If they can trick you, they're wiser than you are. It's a part of that's success. If they can trick you into thinking something that they're not going to do, they're succeeding. So we really have to not trust and verify with China. That said, if they can just reduce the fentanyl coming into America, that's a victory in itself.
Let's talk about that fentanyl deal, because that is one that is literally, I think, a declaration of war against the United States. It's killing people. It's not like the old Cold War where we just kind of wave bombs at each other. They're actually infiltrating the America, and they're polluting our children, killing our kids here. So this is an active war that they have waged against us. Then you look at the infiltration of the COVID-19 virus. The Chinese have killed Americans in this standoff. How do we make sure that they understand that this is not acceptable? I mean, they've waged war and actually killed humans right here in our own country, and we give a handshake and say we got a deal.
Well, the number during just the Biden years, and I want to get into this a little bit, 330,000 overdoses on fentanyl. 330,000, Jim. That's half the number that died in the Civil War. That's how many times the number that died in Vietnam. And yet we're not only not doing anything, but these Democrat sanctuary states and cities are defending the cartels that are selling the drugs. They're defending them by not allowing ICE agents to go in and find them and get them out of our country. This is more than just the being bad actors. This is about sanctuary governors, mayors, AGs that do not arrest people, that don't allow the federal government to go in and create peace in the American cities, that allow this sort of ravaging crime to go on. This is not American, and they are more in league with China than they are with their own citizens.
It's fascinating that you just mentioned the phrase, we got to trust but verify. Obviously, when we were counting nuclear warheads, we could have an independent commission go in and, do 1, 2, 3. We could count it with the old Soviet Union. What is it like? How do we trust but verify on this? I mean, we're going to lower our tariffs. They're supposedly going to buy soybeans. If they don't buy soybeans, we've already lowered our tariffs. I mean, how do we, as a country, in your estimation, verify and make sure that they're shaking hands with good spirits here?
Well, it's hard. With soybeans, it's easy. How many sacks of soybeans did you buy? It's just like your analogy to the nuclear weapons. But with how many pounds of soybeans did you buy? But with when it's illicit drugs, the very word illicit means you can't count it. You don't know. It's hidden. But we can, there has to be some methodology of knowing where the laboratories are that made the precursors for fentanyl that they've shut down.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also, not a lot of people know, there's 2,000 Chinese nationals inhabiting the northern Mexican border who are creating the fentanyl pills that are shipped into America. Now, maybe if they could send all those 2,000 home, right, and help at our border, perhaps to make sure that fentanyl isn't going over.
Yeah. I've said before that one of our greatest problems in our hemisphere and maybe around the world is actually Mexico. I think it should be deemed as a narco-terrorist state. I know they depend on our tourism a lot, but Mexico has really helped proliferate a lot of the problems that we have. China's a long ways away, but they have to have that corridor, and Mexico has been prolific. And I've called them a narco-terrorist state for some time. Let me ask you this. Watching the reception, Donald Trump did the whirlwind tour of Asia, man. He's being invited to Japanese palaces that no American president has ever been given. He's been given civilian honors that no American president has ever been given. I think it was either which country decided, I don't know if it was in response to the No Kings protest, they gave him a crown and he said, I'd like to put all this stuff on right now. It's all just hilarious. Have we ever seen, I mean, he was welcomed like royalty into Egypt, into Israel. He was welcomed like royalty all through the Middle East early in his term. I mean, everywhere he goes, the nations of the world are bowing their knee a little bit to Donald Trump and giving him respect at the very least. Have we ever seen a president so globally at this point respected? Is this a dog and pony show for the nations of the world?
Well, his mission, he's already gotten so much done. Think about it, Jimmy. What happened in the Middle East? He isolated Iran and then decapitated it, literally. And now he's gone and isolated China with regard to trade, and came out with a deal from it, right? So strength commands respect. Strength gives birth to respect, and I think he has done that. I think they also appreciate what he has had to deal with, frankly, in his own country against the opposition, and how they tried to do everything to destroy him, and he survived it. And he survived an assassination attempt. These are rather, when we look back at this time in the future, when we look back historically, this last year, these last 10 years have been remarkable.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And no matter how much Chuck Schumer or the Democrats out there hate the guy, I think history will write the story that their grandkids and great-grandkids will read that Donald Trump was an anomaly in American history and truly a force of nature. And I think history will judge him well, despite what these crazy political opponents are judging him as now. I guess as a historian and a poet, when you watch Donald Trump, you watch this respect, this global respect, this force of nature that he is. I think you and I have talked about maybe Teddy Roosevelt had that personality. but
Yeah.
he just doesn't fit. He doesn't fit the mold of anything that we really have known in our lifetime as a president. Reagan had the humor, but the force of
Yes.
nature is stunning.
And he has a unique background, doesn't he, Jimmy, in television and in dealing with leaders all over the world. He did so in business for years. In dealing with politics, I mean, New York politics, look at what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Just to deal with that mess is a great challenge. He's overcome all these challenges all of his life. And for him to have the background in television from his television show, frankly, dealing, as you do every day, you're very natural at it. Most people aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard C. Lyons, it's important. There's great books to read, and it's I'll let you talk about the DNA of democracy, because there's a couple of things in that series that people need to read it to understand not just our history, but understand kind of where we're at in that timeline of history. I'll let you kind of give a better pitch on them than I did.
Okay, well, the DNA of democracy is volume 1. It's the how and why behind how our nation was created. And it goes through periods of history up to the Constitutional Convention, the Revolution, the Civil War, and then the suffragette movement, to say these are the ingredients that make for a healthful constitutional republic and why we are one. Volume 2, Shadows of the Acropolis, goes into the last 100 years, which since the presidency of Woodrow Wilson is all about the concentration of wealth and power in Washington, D.C., and in one party of government. And it ends up midway through Trump's first term, where he's being attacked and vilified, right? And it's because you have a party out of power that doesn't want to be out of power. So what do? They attack the opposition. You can see it today in the Arctic frost finding these last 2 days, Jimmy. Have you read about this?
Yeah.
They targeted with subpoenas over 300 Republican persons, representatives, and companies to investigate without any cause. And they found a judge who would do it, and they found companies who say, oh, yeah, whatever you want. You're a Democrat. We'll give you whatever you want. So that's my third volume. It's called Passages Through the Shadows, and it's all about the battlegrounds we're on now, because we have an ideological chasm between the people who believe in how this country was founded and the people who believe in Mandami and AOC and Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer and want to drill this country straight to socialism.
Yep. I know the final chapter, if you will, has not been written, but give me your perspective. A lot of Americans out there still feel they're no longer represented, even on our side. They go, yeah, my congressman goes up there, but I don't know what he's doing, but my life's not necessarily changing. You have half the country that if Donald Trump cured cancer, as Donald Trump himself has said, they would still hate him and say, we want cancer because you cured it. The country still feels politically divided. The final chapter of this era of history has not yet been written in your books, nor in reality. But let me ask you, do you see that we're going to come out of this a little bit different? Are we are the efforts of Donald Trump and his force of personality going to bring any lasting change, or are all the problems just going to wait out his term?
It really depends, because, well, I take great hope, because just about a year ago was the election, and look at all the wonderful things that have happened, but there's a basic imbalance in our federal government and in our system of federalism. So much power and wealth has been taken from the states and localities and put in Washington, D.C. to redistribute, that it gives Washington, D.C. all this power. And it's in the administrative state that makes 100 regulations, or God, it's thousands of regulations per every law that is passed constitutionally. You have appointed people for a lifetime in eternal agencies, making rules we have to live by. That is why we feel unrepresented. In 1 year of the Biden administration, 90,000 pages of rules were made by the agencies in the administrative state. During that same year, 100 laws passed. 100. And that was mostly bookkeeping.
Yeah,
that's
bookkeeping
mostly
stuff.
just keeping up. It doesn't have to do with major changes. So no, we got to pull back to a system of federalism to really be hopeful.
All right, your website's been up on the screen, richardclyons.com. They can get all the books, start with the DNA of Democracy, but they can start with any of them because they're all just, you don't have to read them chronologically, but DNA of Democracy is the first one. I appreciate you hopping on the program today. Any big plans? Do you celebrate? Do you hand out the big candy bars or the small candy bars at the Lyons household?
I'm not going to dress up my dogs, but I am going to hand out some candy. I think I'm going to take the dogs with me. They love to meet people, so we'll go on our, around to see what decorations there are. But
yeah, there's a survey. 1 in 6 Americans say their dog likes dressing up for Halloween. I said, no, your dog tolerates. He doesn't like it.
They've already got a coat. They've already got a coat.
They're good.
Custom made. It's a custom made coat, Jim.
By the way, my listeners, I'll have to send you photos sometime. My dog, I went to the groomer, got a bad haircut. He's a Keyshawn, if you know what a Keyshawn, big, beautiful. Yeah. They asked if they could trim him down a little bit further. He came back looking like he had come from the pound. They cut off all of his hair. Not very happy with that groomer. So he's in costume already for Halloween. He's ready to go. He's dressed up as a dog that I don't even recognize living in my own house. RichardClyons.com. Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hopping on again. RichardClyons.com. Go check out the books. I'm telling you, understand the history of where we're at. It makes a heck of a lot more sense. If you've wondered why our government is acting the way it is today, or kind of where we're at in that paradigm, and is history repeating itself, all of these things, I think you'll get a lot more insight going to RichardClyons.com and get the books by Richard C. Lyons. Also, just look up his name, Lyons, Richard C. Lyons, on the Amazon. You can buy them there as well. Before we go to my next guest, I want to remind you about Sherry Cree, one of our great sponsors of this broadcast, podcast, and streamcast. We do all three with this microphone here. And a matter of fact, thousands of earballs will hear and or see this show by the end of the day and the end of the week, as a lot of folks don't watch it live. They watch it in repeat, or they watch it, or they listen to it as a podcast later in the day. Homeswithsherry.com is your website. Those of you in Colorado, Sherry Cree is a fantastic realtor that really wants to help you really create generational wealth through real estate. You say, does that mean I got to become an investor? No, that just means you got to make good decisions about the house you live in, where you're moving to, the neighborhood. She can help you walk through that strategy. Get the pricing right, get the plan right, get the strategy right. It's not just showing up one day, we're ready to move, stick that. No, if you know that there's a move coming even next year, you need to have that strategy session with Sherry Cree now. Start the interviews with the realtors. You're going to try to meet all of them, I'm sure, and you're going to want to talk to them, but have a strategy session with Sherry and find out what she can bring to the table. And first of all, by the way, if you're a military or a veteran or first responder, she always discounts her commissions for you just to make your household dreams come true, and it just make you she loves you. And if you're a caretaker taking care of an aging parent, maybe you need a space to take care of an aging parent, she loves helping you solve some of those problems that happen naturally in life and caring for elderly or people that just need extra care. She loves helping those types of situations. But overall, I think you're going to find a great experience all the way up and down that I-25 corridor in Colorado. Homeswithsherry.com. If you're going to buy a home, sell a home, and it's coming your direction, you need to reach out to her and have that strategy session with her. Boulder to Broomfield, Denver to Daytona. I just made those two up. Fort Collins to Fort Lupton's, Greeley's to whatever has a G name in it. You know the area I'm talking about, that Denver metro area, that I-25 corridor. Sherry Cree. Homeswithsherry.com. Proud to have her as a sponsor of the show. Homeswithsherry.com. Colorado, show Sherry some love and some support to this show as well. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Running a couple of seconds behind, not too bad. But John Lakey is waiting for us very patiently, hoping that I'll shut my pie hole here real soon so he can come on. So let's do it. John Lakey is the author of Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. He's worked with Dr. Peter McCullough, was the primary author of their best-selling book, The Courage to Face COVID-19. He was on with us last week talking about vaccines, mythology, ideology, and reality. Please welcome John Lakey back to the program if I hit the right button. John, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right. I think it was a day I had you on. I said, shoot, I had him on a day early. There was a breaking news story that Governor Ron DeSantis is going to sign legislation allowing ivermectin to be sold over the counter. Let me phrase the question to you, John Lakey, is that we were told a lot about certain vaccines that turned out to not be correct. You'll never get it again if you just get the jab. People get 6, 8, 10 jabs, and they're still getting the booger cootie virus is what I call it. We were also told that Donald Trump was so crazy. He was talking about hydroxychloroquine. He talked about ivermectin. But now Florida's going to sign and say, hey, you can sell this over the counter and it's actually good for human use. What is Florida doing? And let's talk about what we've been told versus, again, what's reality.
Well, I think Governor DeSantis has stated to the Florida legislature that he believes that ivermectin should be readily available to the good citizens of Florida. We applaud this. We think all of the research, the whole remarkable history of ivermectin completely supports this. Now, why was ivermectin suddenly? Well, let me back up a little genealogy of ivermectin. A marvelous researcher in Japan named Satoshi Amora discovered it. It's a natural soil bacteria. And it's really one of the most marvelous stories in pharmacological history. Amora isolated this compound and discovered that it had enormous value in absolutely destroying parasites, roundworms. He was working with a guy at Merck Labs in New York named William Campbell, and they realized that ivermectin has almost no toxicity to humans. You can take it at what you might consider an overdose above and beyond the therapeutic dose for African river blindness, for example. And it just has a very low toxicity profile. But when it was discovered, this will eliminate African river blindness, which was a huge scourge of the tropics for hundreds of years. It was deemed a wonder drug. The WHO literally deemed it a wonder drug. Satoshi Amora and William Campbell won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2015. There were hundreds of research papers on ivermectin, calling it nature's most marvelous molecule. And most notably here, a number of papers indicated it had potent antiviral ability, not just anti-parasitic, but antiviral, including SARS-CoV-1, which came out of China in 2002. So then we fast forward. There's some very good case study evidence. There was a randomized controlled trial in Florida performed by a very good team. The results of that trial were published in Chest Journal. It's a pulmonology journal of high repute. And what did the people running our pandemic response tell us at the time? And in spite of this illustrious history, we were told, no, ivermectin's not a wonder drug. Forget that the guys who discovered it won the Nobel Prize. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous horse paste. You can't take it. So, what is going on here? And, it's one of the things we talk about in our first book. The smearing of ivermectin is one of the most perfidious, malicious things that has ever been done in medicine. And why was it done? So now I come to my theme. It was done because those who were running the pandemic response were only interested in rolling out this new dangerous genetic vaccine or genetic shot, and were terrified that any kind of therapeutic that seemed to work would undermine the public's interest in running out and getting an experimental shot. The reason ivermectin was smeared was to expunge what these lunatic people call vaccine hesitancy. They have this whole ideology of vaccine hesitancy. Anything that would cause someone to hesitate to run out and get a shot in the arm, we must eliminate it. We must destroy it, and we must destroy anyone who proposes it. So it's really quite an astonishing and dreadful moment in medical history.
Wow. John Lake is my guest, and he's written a book. We'll talk more about the details of that here in just a moment. He's written a couple of books, but the latest one you want to get, if you've been one to had your, I guess, scales come off your eyes after the COVID-19 regarding vaccines and things that we've been told were safe or not safe, and there's a whole history here you might want to update yourself on, and he's written a book to do that. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me ask you, ivermectin, if I'm understanding the way pharma works, is that after years of production, you can produce generic versions of that. Pharmas are not getting rich off that anymore. They're going to make their big money. Back when the days they hold an exclusive patent, and that way they can recoup their R&D money. So was it the lack of profit in ivermectin sales that was a motivation? Was it purely profiteering, or was there some political, we don't like Donald Trump, we want this to be an albatross around his neck, and let him be blamed for this global quote pandemic? Which one do you think is the greater motivator? Is it profiteering alone, or is it politicking?
Are we speaking of now or during the pandemic?
I'd say during the pandemic. Let's start there.
Well, during the pandemic, just to emphasize, the smearing, the propaganda campaign against ivermectin was a gambit to expunge vaccine hesitancy. I mean, I perhaps the point bears reiterating or clarifying. I'm not sure how else to express that. Ivermectin could lead people to believe COVID-19 illness, it's not such a big deal, especially for the young. And if you do get sick with it, ivermectin could help you get through it. It's a useful therapeutic that will enable you to quickly get over it. That proposition was what was terrifying to this vaccine cartel that perceived that possibility, that very favorable prospect, as encouraging so-called vaccine hesitancy.
But they didn't want you to be vaccine hesitant because they had a lot of money tied up in this thing, a lot of profiteering. So money could have been a motivator. They're going to make more money, I'm guessing, selling that vaccine at that time than they were making selling the ivermectin.
Well, there's no money in selling ivermectin. It's a generic disease. Merck Labs, which in a rare moment of philanthropy, when the molecule was first discovered and produced by Merck, they actually donated hundreds of millions of doses to the WHO's river blindness campaign to eradicate river blindness. So, there was never any money in ivermectin. There's a lot of money in that messenger RNA vaccine. Yeah. That was the best. I mean, Moderna in Cambridge, Massachusetts was a nothing startup. Never had a product, never brought a pharmaceutical to market. Suddenly Stefan Bancel, the CEO, is a billionaire. Even before the vaccine rolled out, he was a billionaire just on the announcement of human trials. Pfizer had the best year in its history.
Yeah. I'm going to go through the name of your book here, Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. You've worked with Dr. Peter McCullough, primary author of your best-selling book with him, the courage to face COVID-19. John, I think one of the things that has happened is in their effort to help us overcome vaccine hesitancy, which I think was motivated by money and profiteering. So they portray it's for the greater good. But I think a lot of Americans and people have waken up and said, maybe all these health advisors, whether they're government people or pharmaceuticals, and sometimes there's a revolving door between those two camps anyway, a lot of people now are more skeptical than ever before. Is this skepticism, first of all, is it merited? And is it deserved? Is it healthy? Are we more dangerous because we're so skeptical now of what the people that the government has appointed to look over our health and the pharmaceuticals that are supposed to help us? I throw my hands up and say, this is all about money and power. Is that a healthy place for us to now be more skeptical?
I think vaccines, and we examine this in our book, there's a 300-year history, we track the development of vaccines over 3 centuries. Some vaccines have some utility with some people some of the time. So there are a lot of qualifications about the utility of this technology. Instead of examining vaccines on a case-by-case basis, doing a proper risk-reward, a risk-benefit analysis, we're told that all vaccines are categorically a great wonder that deserve all of the credit for reducing infectious disease mortality. Never mind sanitation, nutrition, housing, reduction of air pollution, all of these things, improved medical care. Forget all of that. We are told that vaccines deserve credit for the astonishing drop of infectious disease mortality in the 20th century. So the next step is, anytime the government and its buddies in pharma roll out a new vaccine, we are told everybody's got to rush out to get it, even if they're at very little risk of severe illness or death from the disease. Now, I'll give you an example of this. It became evident within a month that COVID-19 posed little risk to young people. Virtually none. I mean, on a statistical population-wide level, very little risk to otherwise young and healthy people. And yet, it was the young and healthy that was the primary target. We want to get all of the youngsters injected with this thing. I don't know if you remember, it was like some kid that's just gotten a lacrosse scholarship to Duke can't go unless he gets this experimental shot. So this is the thing that our citizenry needs to be very aware of. Beware of U.S. government agencies and their billionaire pharmaceutical friends telling us all that we got to get a shot in order to lead our lives as free American citizens.
Your website, I believe we have it right there on the screen, authorjohnlake.com, L-E-A-K-E. Do I have all that right? And folks can get a copy of your latest book, and I would encourage people to do so. I'll let you one more time. Tell them the website, tell them the name of the book, and how do they find it?
Yeah, I'm an author of a lot of books. I'm started as a true crime author. You can find information about all of my books at authorjohnleake, Leake.com. I write a daily newsletter with Dr. Peter McCullough. That's the Focal Points, plural.com, in which we talk about all of this public policy stuff that we're constantly being tormented with.
That's it. John Lakey, it's always a pleasure, my friend, to have you on. I'm glad you jumped back on. I saw that news story after I had you on last time about DeSantis in Florida. I said, shoot, I had John Lakey on too quickly, and I'm glad you hopped back on and give us some explanation of that. And I'm going to be full disclosure, I stocked up on the ivermectin during the COVID, and I've also got a stockpile of hydroxychloroquine. So take that, liberal media. I've got a stockpile.
They're both good drugs. They're both WHO essential drugs. They're on the list of essential medications.
Yeah, so, they are. Thefocalpoints.com. That's your Substack daily newsletter is out there as well. Yes. John Lakey, it's a pleasure. I got to get, but we'll have you back on for sure. And thanks for hopping on again. I appreciate you. John Lakey, author John Lakey, and get that latest book is just fascinating. And I think a lot of folks woke up during that COVID. A lot of parents woke up to what was happening in their school system, and a lot of people that weren't thinking about health and human services and Centers for Disease Control are now thinking about that. And now we have another layer. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like, hey, by the way, do you know we have dyes that are allowed in kids' food, but they're not allowed in women's makeup because they're dangerous? We go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, there's a lot of things we didn't know, and I think that's if the good comes out of evil, a lot of folks are waking up to the things that are so-called lords and masters in the government have not been forthright with regarding our health. And wake up. And this is a great book by John Lakey you may want to read. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. We will final guest of the day, Jay Ratliff is not going to be with us today for his weekly aviation travel expert. Say, keep a prayer. He's having a couple of health issues he's working through. So say your prayers for Jay Ratliff. We'll get him back on hopefully by next Wednesday. Next Thursday, he should be back on. But don't forget, we always love having you. And as soon as this show is over, if you missed part of it, go back, listen to all the podcast platforms. Thousands of earballs will hear this show on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify. You get the idea. So you can find us on all the platforms that are out there. Also, don't forget, I'm going to bring John O'Connor in, the famed attorney extraordinaire. I should write his bio for him. Also, don't forget our charity work in Rwanda, riverspromise.org. riverspromise.org or riverspromise.com. I'll be heading over there 1 month from today. I will actually be back in the beloved country of Rwanda, delivering aid and help and consultation, if you will, to our school, Legacy Christian Academy. If you'd like to, if you sponsor one of the children over there, so feel free to send us a note for your child. I'll personally deliver that to you. We've got some fundraising opportunities. Going to be buying all the Christmas gifts for the kids there. I'm going to be Jimmy Santa while I'm there. So riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. If you're not familiar with my charity work there, I'd like for you to be. There's a great mini documentary that producer Chad went over with us about 2 years ago, and that's up there. Go check it out, riverspromise.com, and starting tomorrow on November 1st, we're going to start the end of the year fundraising drive, and I really want you to be a part of it. I appreciate it. So 1 month from today, I will already be on the ground there. So anyway, let's welcome in, if I can, and I can because it's my show, and thousands of earballs are anticipating the arrival of John O'Connor. He's the author of Postgate, How the Washington... Excuse me, how my screen went dark and I got choked up. How the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. John O'Connor has served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, representing the United States, both criminal and civil cases. He was Deep Throat's lawyer during the days of the Watergate trials and scandals and things. John O'Connor joins us in the studio from the beautiful state of California. John O'Connor, welcome in, sir.
Good to be with you, Jimmy. I've told my wife I'm extraordinaire, and she doesn't buy it. But now that you've said I'm extraordinaire, maybe I've got some cred behind me.
Yeah, if you need a note, I'll send a note home with you. It's like, dear Mrs. O'Connor, John is extraordinary. Signed, Jimmy. I'll write it for you if you need it.
Yeah, it might help. I don't know. We'll see.
It probably won't, John. Let's be honest. Not because of you, but because my credibility may be shot with your wife. I don't know. She may do that. John, I wanted to get your take on a couple of things. We're seeing, first of all, on a kind of a tabloid type story, we have the story that Donald Trump, while he's striking peace on earth, goodwill towards men, getting all these peace deals and all the stuff that Donald Trump is constantly seeming on the go doing stuff, kind of under the radar. A lot of folks didn't know he appealed his Stormy Daniels hush money conviction. This did not make headline, but he had been told that he had paid Stormy Daniels hush money, and he's appealed that. Give us the update.
Well, I think he has a very good chance on appeal. In essence, Stormy Daniels, the whole idea was, it wasn't the affair with Stormy Daniels, which is a one-night stand between two consenting adults. Melania was pregnant, and many men know how that goes. He was out at a golf tournament, which actually where I was in Lake Tahoe. But Stormy did not come after me, I note. But maybe it looks like maybe I didn't have the pocketbook that Donald did. Yeah. But what it is he was charged with the non-crime. Everybody talks about, oh, Trump's into retribution. This is one of the greatest injustices ever. The charge was that somehow, and Biden sent the fellow in to devise this, that in New York you can't have a false business record. Statute of limitation, it's a misdemeanor. Statute of limitations is gone. In order to get a felony out of it and to also get the statute of limitations where they wanted it, you had to say that the misdemeanor was for purposes of committing another crime. There was no other crime, and nobody was deceived by, and wasn't even a false record. What happened was Trump listed this, at least his organization listed this expense of paying off Stormy Daniels as a legal expense. It is a legal expense. It was a lawyer came from Stormy Daniels, was threatening a lawsuit. He paid her off through Michael Cohen. And so there was nothing false about that. But then the real key to the prosecution is, even if it was false, there was no other crime committed. And then the judge just gave him a menu. The judge was terrible, gave the jury a menu of crimes, and then told the jury that if Michael Cohen did front the money, the judge told the jury that that was a campaign violation and a crime, which it wasn't. And that's not a campaign violation to front a legal expense. I do that every day. If I do it for a fellow who's running for office, that doesn't make it a campaign violation. So it's a terrible case, but it goes to show that when the Democrats accuse Trump of retribution, the better word for it is accountability and justice. He really needs cases like this to be erased, because there are people out there that still say the guy's a felon. You can say anything you want about the guy. You can claim that he's maybe not always dignified and that sort of thing that bothers some Karen people out there. But boy, to say he's a felon, that's really a nasty jab at him, and it should be wiped off. So
the voice.
I expect it to be.
The voice of John O'Connor. We'll talk more about his books and podcasts, etc. But John, one question that pops up when I read this story, I'm seeing in the New York Post. I saw it a couple of days ago. Is when I think I clipped this onto my computer. Why do you think it took the Trump team so long? This hush money conviction happened in Manhattan. It happened before the election, and yet they're just now getting to appeal. Is this a strange timeline to you at all?
Well, it is. It is. And I have not figured out the timing yet. I thought he had filed a notice of appeal earlier. So this may be, I don't know that. I don't know if it's a second level of appeal. I know originally there was a serious fine set for this. But no, I don't know why it took this long, and may well have taken the judge. He may have deliberately delayed actually issuing the final judgment. And he might have done that solely for the purpose so that Trump could not embarrass him by getting a quick appeal. So if I have to guess, if there was any delay here, it probably would have been by the court, because that clock is ticking once the judge does his job.
Okay.
He knew, look, this guy's smart. I don't think he's a dumb judge. He's a smart guy, very, very political. His daughter's very political, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And I think he understands it's going to be embarrassing whenever this thing is heard.
That would make sense. The judge kind of slow walk this to the finish line, and now they finally get all the I's dotted, the T's crossed, and they can file the appeal. That would make sense to me. I want to get your take. It's not necessarily on my pitch sheet that I have here, but I'm watching more and more. What we heard a couple of weeks ago is Operation Arctic Frost, and then we're learning more about what happened really to spy on Donald Trump. Jack Smith, the special prosecutor at the time, was not just spying on Trump and Trump Towers, but members of Congress. Are you watching what's been happening? You've been around the Department of Justice, and I kept an eye on it for many years. What are your thoughts of what was happening under the Merrick Garland Department of Justice? It seems like it was quite corrupt, and it seems like Jack Smith might have some problems here coming to his way.
Well, right. And Jack Smith, and it's a little complicated area of law, he has some level of immunity as a prosecutor, but then he can't go beyond, he can't do things that are clearly intentionally violating the Constitution. So I would suspect he would not be prosecuted for what he did. Now, that's not the same as saying he didn't commit dastardly deeds. What is terrible about our system, Jimmy, is the one-sided media. This could have been discovered very easily by the media, all this, major media, and it wasn't. And it now takes digging by Chuck Grassley and the Senate and so forth to ferret out these things. They never would have come to the light of day, but they were there. And remember, he was spying on, Jack Smith was getting all kinds of things about Republican lawmakers. It's really terrible what they can get away with, and yet supposedly anything that Trump does, even if it's just perfectly innocent, just gets blown up. It's a terrible way to run a democracy. You know, if you talk about keeping democratic norms, as everybody who criticizes Trump talks about, how about starting with a press that's honest so that the voters can get true information? We're not getting it. And this is just another example. You and I have talked about so many different things, Jimmy, over the years where the media just doesn't pick up on things. And it's guys like you and me that are trailing around trying to figure out all their lies and cover. It's really cover-ups.
I think I was talking to my previous guest about the CDC and the FDA, all the food and drugs and the pharmaceutical and the collusion that happens. And then I go back to we're kind of been taught that Lady Justice is blindfolded and that Merrick Garland was qualified to be on the Supreme Court as Obama's nominee because there was no more honest, straight Boy Scout than him. And then I mean, it's like all of the heroes we knew as children, meaning these government entities that we thought were pretty straight and narrow. Yeah, there's some corruption in there. In the last 4, 6, 8 years, we're realizing that the Department of Justice has not been straight shooting. Previous guest talking about the FDA and the CDC not straight shooting. I've never seen anything like this in which all of the institutions of government are kind of being exposed for some nefarious deeds here, John, especially the Department of Justice. We don't need that.
I think a lot of it stems from extreme leftism, not regular moderate democratic liberalism. But when you get into extreme leftism, you start getting toward Stalin and actually, or by the way, was a socialist when everybody, no matter what people say, it's called National Socialism. The fact that you have doctrines and you can do no wrong if you're following that doctrine gives everybody a way of saying, hey, we're above it all. We don't need to tell anybody what we're doing, or we can disguise what we're doing for those stupid people out there in the proletariat. We're the vanguard, and that's really what the Soviet style is. We're the vanguard. We know everything. The people don't need to know it. We're going to do our thing. And if you realize that happens in every area in which the left acts today, and I'm not talking about the old left, I'm not talking about John F. Kennedy or somebody like that,
Yeah.
who I was a big fan of, or even, and it wasn't so much Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's wife sort of went that way. Bill Clinton was really kind of, maybe arguably okay, but now we've got people that really think they really have all the answers, but we the people don't need to know about any of this stuff. So you can put everything in that rubric. And you look at Russiagate, that's just something like, look, we and our media buddies are going to fool everybody, and we're going to get rid of this guy, which is precisely what Stalin did with Beria.
The voice of John O'Connor, author of a book called Postgate. We'll talk how to get that book here in just 60 seconds or so. How the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. And obviously that journalism is what we're talking about here today. John, I want you to give us a little perspective. You were Deep Throat's attorney during that Watergate, post-Watergate era. And I'm listening to some of the things that brought Richard Nixon down, Richard Milhouse Nixon, the spying, the audio tapes, all the stuff that legendary in the Watergate era. And I'm watching what Jack Smith has done. I'm watching what Merrick Garland has approved. It really makes the Watergate saga, in my estimation, almost look like Boy Scout activity. What is your perspective? You were in the middle of it historically, and what happened at Watergate, and then what's happening and what's been happening of the weaponization of the justice system. Is there a comparison between the two?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I was not Deep Throat's lawyer until later, but I was a federal prosecutor when this was going on, and I studied it quite diligently and discovered back in the 1970s who Deep Throat was. I knew that. I could tell. But what is very apparent today when you look at everything is that the Washington Post knew more. This was supposedly a cover-up about a campaign operation that went bad, the burglary of the DNC. It was not a campaign operation. The CIA had infiltrated the White House. There's no doubt about it. I'm not a crazy theorist here. The CIA had done it. This was to protect a CIA operation and make it seem legal if it was done by the White House. But it was the Post, and the reason I wrote the book Postgate is it was the Post concealing of information from the dumb proletariat that pushed Nixon out of office. Even Nixon himself had thought, well, maybe this burglary was ordered by John Mitchell, my attorney general. That's what they all thought. And then at some point they realized that he didn't do it. And even today, the Washington Post now will admit that John Mitchell did not order the burglary. Well, if he didn't order it, who did? And it turns out that it had nothing to do with the White House or the Oval Office. It was a bad rap But what that did, Jimmy, what Watergate did was it gave the liberals and their allies in the press the formula, the template to get rid of Republicans and conservatives they did not like. And that's the formula. And now that formula is applied and applied and applied, so that the story of on Russiagate is far worse, because that essentially was a dirty campaign operation. Was Russiagate itself, was the story, was the dirty campaign operation, and the media is sanctioning it by accusing Trump. So
Yeah.
in essence, Watergate was about sort of a dirty trick by the Washington Post to get rid of Richard Nixon. Now, I'm not saying Richard Nixon acted perfectly or his fellows did, but they didn't know what had gone on. They were scratching their heads as to how this burglary had happened, so they kind of stayed mum. They didn't know what to say. But today, the real farce is that now the media can go out and make or break kings. That was proven in Watergate. That's why all these folks, when they go to journalism in school, they're told that they're kings of the universe, queens of the universe, and they can do whatever they want to do and get rid of politicians they don't like. And
Yeah.
the politicians know, like Jack Smith know, that they're not going to be brought to book if they're on that side. So that's what is happening today. It is an outgrowth of Watergate today, and that's why I spent all that time writing this book, because I was stunned when I started researching further about the Post reporting on this.
If you want to understand where we're at now, you kind of need to understand where we've been. And the name of the book is called Postgate: How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat and Created Today's Partisan Advocacy Journalism. If you get ticked to the media, this is the root of all that. John O'Connor, one more quick thought before we let you talk about the podcast, et cetera, that you have about Watergate. I remember the late and great Rush Limbaugh used to say that if the media doesn't make you, it's harder for them to break you. And that's what Donald Trump brought to the table, is that he was not a politician that had grown up just because the media. He had made himself. He was a self-made man. He had built his own celebrity. And so when the media came against him with Russia, Stormy Daniels, hookers in Moscow hotel rooms, they couldn't tear Donald Trump down because they didn't build him up. And I guess that's probably what has let Donald Trump be so resilient, is that the partisan journalists did not create him. Therefore, they had a tougher time destroying him.
Well, I would say this, because he's the first guy that had the guts to go against the press and call them fake news. And there are an awful lot of people out there in regular America that have been waiting for somebody that would not be polite like them. The conservatives are always been polite people, and they seethe as this nonsense comes out in the biased media. Trump was the first guy that came along and was not like his constituents. He's not a polite, reserved guy. He came out like a bull in a china shop, and everybody went, yay, this is what we've been waiting for. Somebody who is not going to be cowed by the press. So you're right about this. First of all, he built himself up before he ran for president, but then he also used that power to come out and say, BS, you're fake news, you're lying, and it caught on. People said, yes, he's right, isn't he? Yeah. So that's it. I think the fake press elected Trump. That was one of his biggest strengths, was the fact that the press was lying about him and going after him so viciously, and people see that.
The name of your book, Postgate: How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. Isn't it just amazing that all the things that you spotted that were happening almost 50 years ago in the Watergate time, they've now kind of maybe backfired, and Donald Trump brought the backfire on the media, and the partisan advocacy journalism that used to hide behind an air of sanctimony has been exposed. It took 50 years, but every action has now had an equal and opposite reaction.
That's right, and he's destroying some of these businesses because people are realizing they can't go and get straight news from these people, and their ratings are in the tank, and their credibility's in the tank. And so I say, great.
Yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer group of people over at NBC. John O'Connor, first of all, you've got the book. We've talked about that, Postgate. Folks should get a copy of it if you want to understand where we're at today with the media, and you get a copy of this book, the Postgate book by John O'Connor. John, you also have a podcast I've alluded to a couple of times that's really interesting because it's kind of the backstory of the kind of behind the scenes regarding Watergate. Talk about the podcast and other things that you'd like to push, sir.
Well, I've got a podcast and also got a book that covers the same topic. It's called The podcast and the book is called Mysteries of Watergate. And I break down Watergate into 34 fairly quick chapters. They're bite-sized chapters so that people can understand exactly what happens in this fascinating thing. There's so many moving parts in it. And it's a fascinating read. And I try to do it to some of my buddies who say, I want this in simplified, easy to digest form. So I wrote a book really for my buddies who are of a certain age and maybe their reading comprehension isn't as great as it was when they were 21. But I try to do it really for everybody. So this book is called The Mysteries of Watergate, What Really Happened. And if you want a primer on Watergate, there it is.
If folks want to hear the podcast, read the book, everything can be found. It's all linked up at postgatebook.com, correct?
That's right. My website, Postgate Book. I've got 150 articles on there that are worth at least exploring. Then you might hit a subject that your audience would like.
Let me ask you, John O'Connor, you're going to be dressed up for Halloween. You're handing out this little bitty candy bars or the full-size candy bars there at the O'Connor estate tomorrow?
Well, I live up on a hill, and so nobody will trick or treat. So I'm going down to actually near where Gavin Newsom lives, actually, where the big houses are in the flat land. And there's in our area, there's some tremendous, it's really party time. I got to say this, the adults go out as much as the kids do because you've got parties and it's really quite nice. And so there's a crypto billionaire that lives in the town and he invited the whole town to his party. So only in California would this happen while we're getting burned up and everybody's paying too much in taxes. There are a few good things out here, Jimmy.
Rioting on the streets, illegals running amok, but the crypto billionaire has invited John O'Connor over for a Snickers. That's exciting. That's a good day.
Yeah, he hands out big candy bars to the young kids. The kids love it. I mean, every kid in town is going to this deal. Yeah. It's fun.
Are you going to be in costume, John? What's the costume?
Well, I'm scary enough, Jimmy, to little kids, just as I am.
I think you could do a book promotion. I want you in one of those, you sometimes see them in crime movies, they rob banks, with one of those Richard Nixon masks. I think you could sell the book there with you, a Nixon mask for you.
That's right. And we might even want to think about a Joe Biden mask, maybe. Or actually, a Trump mask probably would scare a lot of people. Remember, I'm in an area that is still wonderful as it is. It's about 85% Democrat, so I think a Trump mask might work.
Well, if Gavin Newsom shows up at the Halloween party, give him our best. We'd love to have Gavin on the show and ask him why he talks with his hands in such a weird way in every interview. If you could get to the bottom of that, and please come back and report.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, he's getting a lot of play on those hands, isn't he?
John, it's great to have you here. I really appreciate everything you do. I don't know what any of that meant, but I felt good. John O'Connor, postgatebook.com. Thanks for staying a couple of seconds over. I kept him. He's a lawyer. He's billing us by the hour. Get him off here. John O'Connor. We're going to be screwed with that one. Producer Chad, we got to raise some money. We kept John O'Connor in overtime. He bills us by the hour. Just give him big candy bars, full-size Snickers. I think it'll be good. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day. If you're listening on the audio version, I know you don't see the things panning across the bottom of the screen, but postgatebook.com, or as Gavin Newsom would say, for those watching, postgatebook.com. That's the Gavin Newsom thing. John's left the green room. He's probably listening online. John O'Connor lives just up the hill from Newsom and a crypto billionaire, but he lives in the small house. Yeah, it's because he bills me for the hour. Okay, he offered to be my agent. Do you know that John O'Connor offered to be my agent because I complained about my agent so much? Yep. Then I got fired. Should have had him. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we've skipped the memes yesterday, and some of you were quite angry, and I apologize for that. And don't forget our question of the day today, which was, have Halloween decorations gone too far? I know a lot of you have said yes. I think they have, and some of you just need to find Jesus. I'm telling you, some of your decorations are awful. But let's do the memes. How about that? Stolen meme section of the show. Tomorrow we will do the Halloween section of the show. And as much as I can, I'll hand out free candy to everybody. There, through the screen. I'm going to stick it right through the screen. So tomorrow, trick or treat on the program. I'm sure the question is arising, will you be dressed up for Halloween? Well, if dressing up for Halloween is, if dressing up for Halloween means wearing a blue shirt and a very handsome hat, then yes, I'll be dressed up for Halloween. Maybe I'll do a different color. I freaked all of you out on Monday with a red shirt. I may pull out a different color tomorrow. I doubt I do, but it's possible. Anyway, candy corn, please, says Jeff. Yeah, candy corn did not, on the favorite Halloween candy that I talked about that DoorDash and Instacart have put out state by state lines. Candy corn was not top on any state's list. Nobody wants the candy corn. However, I will tell you this, it is popular, more popular in some states. The South, I think, is where the 0 states were linked to candy corn, but that's not in DoorDash. But on Instacart, 4 states where candy corn is a little bit more candy corn's a little bit more popular on the Instacart. And those are the states, are you ready? Nebraska, Kansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. So there's not top. It doesn't even show up on the DoorDash of most liked candies, but on Instacart, it actually shows a little bit more popularity. It's not the favorite, but Nebraska, Kansas, Mississippi, and Alabama do seem to like the candy corn there. That explains a lot about the folks up in Nebraska. Really does. So anyway, candy corn is, yeah. Anybody candy corn? Yeah. Nobody wants a candy corn. I'll eat it if it's there, but that's because being respectful. All right, let's do it. Let's do the stolen memes section of the show. We go around the world and we just randomly steal memes. We try to give credit where credit is due, but we try to give credit where credit is due, but sometimes we just steal them, just outright thieve them. That's what we do here. So here we go. We skipped it yesterday, so this is going to be double good, satisfying all of your wants and needs that you had after yesterday's show when I left you wanting. Ready? Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is a guy on a tractor, for those of you listening to the show, and says, I guess they had to invent artificial intelligence since real intelligence is running out. Captioned by Thoughts from a Gen Xer. That's true. Sometimes I look around and say, yeah, we've run out of real intelligence. Let's have some artificial intelligence. It'll be smarter than what we're dealing with on a daily basis. Yeah, that's true. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Breaking news. BLM has announced they'll help provide food for the Black community in light of SNAP budget cuts. That's Black Lives Matter, not the Bureau of Land Management, just to be clear. Black Lives Matter has announced they'll provide food for the Black community in light of the SNAP budget cuts. Just kidding. They won't do anything for the Black community as usual. The Black Lives Matter movement not into helping the community. They're into destroying the community and burning it down. So yeah, it's just fake news. That was fake news. Just letting you know. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Thomas Jefferson said, if serving in an elected office ever becomes a career, corruption will surely follow it. Old Thomas Jefferson nailed that one, didn't he? Old TJ. Let's say it again. If serving in elected office ever becomes a career, corruption will surely follow. He nailed it. Yep, TJ, good job. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. We stole this from the Babylon Bee. Look at this. See the photo there? Elderly lesbian throuple turns out to be Green Day. Yeah, they look like Subaru drivers there, don't they? Yeah. Look at that. Yep. Oh, yeah. Enough said. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Somebody lying on the couch, seeing the psychiatrist. Is Trump derangement syndrome covered under Obamacare? I think it's just, well, that would just, some people, these TDSers need to be institutionalized, locked up, because it is a mental illness. So yeah, great question. Great question. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is from Donald Trump Jr. Look who we stole that one from. And it's supposed to have the Ozzy Osbourne song Crazy Train playing behind it. and it's a photo of Willie Jeff Clinton. Willie Jeff, Bill Clinton. With the right motivation, any room in the White House is a ballroom. With the right motivation, any room in the White House is the ballroom. Did not have sexual relations with that woman, Mrs. Clinton. There's my Bill. I haven't done the Bill Clinton imitation in years. I used to be pretty good at Bill imitation. I didn't imitate those other activities of his, but yeah, there it is. Any room in the White House is a ballroom. Willie Jeff. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one. Oh, we milk the meme. Oh, there it is, all the way from. The Chinese have banged the gong and said, "No more memes. We've stolen it. We've gone and searched the world over and thought we found more memes, but we didn't. That's all we found for today." And that's yeah, that was today's memes served from yesterday and leftovers, but we're glad to have all of you here on the show. All right, it's Thursday edition of the program. Tomorrow's the Halloween version of the show. I see that my caption there says, "I hate candy corn." I don't hate candy corn. It's just not my preference. Don't make me lobby once again for the Three Musketeers bar. That would make me very, very sad. All right. Ashley says, vote blue if you want tranny kids and a grown man in the bathroom with your kids. I don't know if that fits on a bumper sticker, but Ashley, it is a very good point, well noted, and we appreciate it. Vote blue if you want trainee kids and a grown man in the bathroom with your kids. Yep, you can have it. And you want men competing against your girls in sports, you can do that as well. Jeff says lobotomies for TDS. It may be a possibility at this point. There's some people that are out there just bat crap crazy out. They're bat crap crazy. All right, don't forget to like this program, share it, tell all your friends. As I said, our numbers on the podcast do very, very well. We're checking those daily. Always love to hear from you wherever in the country, wherever in America, or really around the globe you're listening. We appreciate you doing so. The way you can like and support is, number one, like and support us. If you see this feed, share it out on your Instagrams or your Twitters, on your Facebook. We appreciate the Red Wave America Facebook page, the Media Equalizer Facebook page. Of course, my page is facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. All the Twitter feeds, a lot of people restream us on the Twitter or the X, so we appreciate that. And if you'd like to be an advertising partner with this program and this, let's just phrase it, Chad, this growing phenomenon. Maybe a little overstated, but we'd love to hear from you wherever you're at around America. info@jimmylakey.com. Send us an email, info@jimmylakey.com. The other way you can help us break through the algorithms and reach more people is, even if you're watching the live show, go to the favorite podcast platform, wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, like us and subscribe to it. So first of all, you'll always have a backup there ready to be listened to in case you miss the live version. But it also, the more likes and subscribes we get on the platforms, it changes up the algorithms, and that we appreciate you doing that as well. And same thing on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you see it. When you like something, when you share it, a lot of times that just boosts the algorithms, and it lets the computer say, wow, there's interest in this, and they start sharing it out to more. So that's how you can participate in the program. If you'd like to, again, be an advertiser or sponsor, we'd love to hear from you. info@jimmylakey.com. All right, tomorrow we'll unleash Halloween fun, and we'll also talk about the countdown for my trip to Rwanda and how you can be a part of that. We appreciate all of you being a part of the show. The charity website is riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. It's been a fantastic on the program. Thank you to Richard C. Lyons, John Leake, John O'Connor, and we appreciate all of you being a part of the program. Good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll be back here tomorrow morning. Until we gather together once again, whether on podcast, broadcast, or streamcast, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I am Jimmy Lakey. May God bless you. May God bless America. Jimmy Lakey, peace. I'm out of here.